passion to the conversation on sustainable development in the tropics. So first of all, I'd like to introduce Yang Muhammad Datuk Sri Haji Abdul Karim Rahman Hamzah, who has been a dedicated public servant, a member of the Sarawak State Legislative Assembly for Asar Jaya since 2001, and currently serving as the Minister of Tourism, Creative Industry and Performing Arts, as well as the Minister for Youth, Sports and Entrepreneurial Development. His leadership and vision have been crucial in shaping Sarawak's future, especially in relation to sustainable development and cultural preservation. Without further ado, I would like to first invite Yang Muhammad to the stage to give his introductory presentation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning to each and every one of you. Moderator, fellow athletes, Excellencies, I was made to understand there are quite a number of messages who are down here. There's no just one from Brazil. Participants of this
How many of you from Brazil?
conference.
How many of you
First
from
of all, I would
Brazil
like to
for this conference?
From Brazil?
express my
I
thanks
don't know
to
because I'm from Mexico.
organizers for inviting me.
I thought you
I'm not from the academy, but then probably my perspective,
Probably by you.
looking after the youth in Sarawak, as well as being a youth leader myself. Many years until I got into politics, those experiences that I have, I get to share that during the theory as well as now. Well, looking at the importance of youth, that is where if you have to see among the Malays, there is this phrase which they say, if you want to see how the future of the country in the future, you look at how the youth is at this moment of time. That is where the importance of youth is, and the responsibility of those who look after the youth and nurturing them to be good leaders, whether they're going to be national leaders, whether they're going to be leaders in a country. That is the responsibility of each and every one of us. Well, according to the ASEAN Youth Development Index 2022 and 2016, which emphasizes the need for targeted policies to enhance youth participation and empowerment across Southeast Asia. Globally, under the Global Youth Development Index 2023, which underscores the vital importance of investing in youth as key drivers for sustainable futures. In the Commonwealth, we have got the Commonwealth Global Youth Development 2023, which focuses on fostering leadership and active participation among youth to tackle global challenges. Back home, nationally in Malaysia as well as in Sarawak, the Malaysian Youth Index 2023 and the Index Belia Sarawak, as per Sarawak State 2019, provides insight into the well-being and special needs of Malaysian as well as Sarawak youth, enabling targeted intervention for improvement. These indices play vital roles in monitoring and addressing the well-being of Malaysian youth, Sarawak youth, contributing to positive youth development. Demographically, if you have to see, by the year 2050, 67% of global population under 15 will live in the tropical regions, particularly in Africa as well as in Asia. And this demographic shift presents both challenges and opportunities for sustainable development, as a young, educated workforce can drive economic growth and innovation. Climate action leadership. Youth are increasingly recognized as leaders in climate action. Their engagement in initiatives focused on climate change is crucial as they bring fresh perspective and urgency to the discussion. Recently, when we were hosting the Rainforest World Music Festival, 1 week before that, my ministry, we engaged and we want to play our part, youth leaders from the ASEAN countries. A lot of the universities from Indonesia, from Singapore, from Brunei, from Laos, from Myanmar, we bring them fully paid to Sarawak to groom them up to look at how we can look after the environment, how we can to nurture them so that at least when they become leaders in their own country, they will still remember. Those are the little effort that we did through my ministry to try to make it. It's not just that we want to groom up our local leaders to be looking into all this conservation, looking into preservation, but we have got that responsibility also to make sure that those in the region are also looking at it from that perspective. Advocacy and participation, science and social entrepreneurship. The other area which youth is always very familiar with is innovation and technology. That's where the youth of today are very important in what is going to happen in the future. The youth are in the forefront of technological advancement that can support sustainable practices. Their familiarity with digital tools allow them to leverage technology for environmental monitoring, disaster management, and community engagement, enhancing resilience against climate impact. In Sarawak, actually, we do have this program called Jelajah Belia. In Sarawak, we have got 45 districts. We have been moving around all this. I have had engagement with about 39 districts already, where we had town hall with youth leaders in all these districts and asking them what are the aspirations, what do they hope to see in the future, and actually all the engagement that we have, not even one has left out on this digitalization. So we can see that the youth are so much more advanced when it comes to technology, when it comes to digital, when it comes to connectivity, and that is where those feedback that we got from our town hall with the youth in every corner of Sarawak, we bring it up. I bring it up to the cabinet, formulate our own policies on how to get them to be connected in Sarawak. So actually, if you're familiar with Sarawak, you can go right up to the interior, to those places like Bario, at the borders with Indonesia. Connectivity is there because we know the importance of this, and we know also that the youth are so much more advanced when it comes to gadgets, when it comes to technology. Social commission and community development. Engaging youth in community projects foster social cohesion and empowers them to contribute positively to society. Their involvement not only aids personal development but also promote collective actions to achieving SDGs, particularly those related to poverty, alleviation, education and health. And finally, interconnectedness of issues. Youth engagement helps highlight the interconnectedness of various challenges such as climate change, health crisis, economic inequality, allowing for more holistic approaches to sustainable development. By addressing these issues collaboratively, youth can drive comprehensive solutions that benefits the communities. So how do we inspire and empower young individuals to become the driving force behind sustainable development? There are three areas: policies, strategies, research and development. If we look into this deeper, I believe we will not be wrong. This is where I believe through conferences like this we will be able to gain a lot of knowledge and try to come up with inclusivity policies that we would be able to use to bring up the youth voices in sustainable development decision making. Yeah. Well, I think we do not have much time. I do not have much time, so I think I will stop here. And we can do the Q&A later to handle the other field.
Thank you, Dr. Sri Haji Aki Travelog. Joining us also on this panel, the next speaker will be Professor Emerita Dr. Asma binti Ismail, a trailblazer in higher education and research, currently the Vice Chancellor and CEO of IMU University. Dr. Asma was Malaysia's first female Vice Chancellor at two leading universities and served as the Director General of Higher Education. With 16 patents, over 130 publications and global recognition, including Forbes Asia's 50 Women Under 50. Her leadership in science and innovation has been instrumental in advancing Malaysia's role in research and sustainable development, and I should add, planetary health. So now let's put our hands together and invite Professor Dr. Asma for her introductory statement.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Thank you to the organizing committee for inviting me to be here. Morning to the moderator and also to the distinguished panelists. We have had a very good, insightful discussion this morning on post-normal times. And this is the second part, which is the policy dialogue. Now, after hearing all that values and insights, what all that has been discussed, how do you put them all together to make it happen, reality on the ground? This is the difficult task that I now have to explain to you about the National Planetary Health Action Plan. This is Malaysia's call to action for a promising future for our future. Malaysia, ladies and gentlemen, ranked 12th globally on the National Biodiversity Index, and we boast exceptional biodiversity with rich and endemic species across plants and animals. And of course, the rainforests of Sabah and Sarawak that you are here today are recognized as some of the world's most diverse. But habitat loss is happening, and this is driven by deforestation for purposes such as agriculture, for road construction. All these have remained a concern for the Malaysian wildlife because you have iconic species like the Malayan tiger, the tapir, the elephant, the Sunda pangolin, and recently the Sumatra rhinoceros, plus 46 species of forest birds, all face severe habitat loss and extinction due to forestation and forest conversion to oil palm. Zoonosis and vector-borne diseases are also linked to deforestation, like the Nipah virus, and of course now the zoonotic malaria caused by Plasmodium knowlesi that had led to increased contact between humans and the mosquito vector. These threats are manifested into irreversible damages to the environmental ecosystems. To address the environmental issues, we need to bridge the knowledge and awareness gaps. This is why this is happening. We have this knowledge and awareness gaps in the interconnection between environmental health, human well-being or human health, animal health, and economic prosperity. So to make it all happen, education is key. In 2023, well, basically, we have to ask this question. We already have SDG, so why is there a need for planetary health? Because, ladies and gentlemen, in 2023, United Nations showed that more than 50% of the world's target for SDGs is weak and insufficient, and 30% have stalled or reversed. Basically, the world is not on track to achieve many of the SDGs by 2030. And why do SDGs fail, you may want to ask? Because it cannot be implemented in silo. In Malaysia, most of these SDGs is held by one ministry. So every ministry has an SDG to take care of. This cannot happen because we cannot have the SDGs working if it was implemented in silo. All the 17 SDGs must be implemented in an interconnected manner as a comprehensive package. So in 2015, the Lancet Rockefeller Foundation introduced this concept called planetary health, and which is basically the health of human civilization and the state of the natural systems on which it depends. Now this report is very important because it brings out the fact that in today's Anthropocene era, the planet's natural systems are being degraded by humans at an alarming rate, and that the concept of health must go beyond just human well-being. It must also include the well-being of the natural systems as well. So planetary health basically takes a systems approach and highlights the interconnection and interdependence between human, animal, and ecological system. Because what we do for human progress affects the environment, and the environment changes will in turn affect our health. So according to WHO, planetary health is the core to the SDG. I think all of you are very familiar with the circle, with the colored circle, which is everybody wears on their coat and say, yeah, I'm into SDG. But actually, if you look at the core from the side, this is what it looks like, because planetary health is the core to the SDG, which is at the bottom, the blue and green color. And if you basically take care of the planet, it will take care of the SDG and the ESG. So for planetary health to work, we basically need the whole government and whole society approach. But if you look at the current situation in Malaysia, we find that the economic impact, please look at 2000 to 2019, pay attention to the blue line. The economic impact has shown progress throughout the period from 2000 to 2019. However, the science, technology, and innovation ecosystem had progressed from 2000 to 2010, but remained stagnant from 2010 to 2019. But the social and environmental aspects have been deteriorating over the years at the expense of economic progress. This is exactly what Professor Mahendra was showing you, right? When we are very much into ROI and not into ROV. So, and we look at the environmental performance index, also totally on the decline side. From 2012 to 2022, we have gone from number 25 all the way to 130th. In 2019, the country's welfare cost of premature death related to environmental issues reached 64.2 billion, which is 7% of our GDP. Ladies and gentlemen, the cost of not doing anything is too high for Malaysia. So therefore, it's time for us to have less talk and more action, as alluded by Tan Sri Mazlan in her opening speech. Basically, we need to act now. And in 2021, the National Science Council of Malaysia mandated the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation through the Academy of Sciences Malaysia to actually develop this National Planetary Health Action Plan, as alluded by the President in his opening speech, in collaboration with central agencies and relevant ministries. What we found was that it is a world's first. This plan has not been done by other countries, and Malaysia seems to be the one doing it. The action plans have to be, this is why after learning what happened with the SDG, we now say, okay, the action plan that we're going to develop has to be interconnected, cannot be implemented in silo. We need to work for ROV, for profit optimization, that will in turn, we know, will bring in ROI. The work on, we have also to work on strengthening the existing governance infrastructure and enhance collaboration to break the silos. We have many things. If you now create a new entity, I don't think the planet wait long enough for us to not get our act together. So basically, we need to work on strengthening on the existing governance infrastructure and enhance that collaboration among ministries to actually break the cycle. And we need to bring in positive transformation via whole nation approach. And here, whole nation approach means whole government approach plus whole society approach, all right? Because this needs to be done in tango in order to work towards sustainability, not only for the federal, but sustainability for the states, for the communities, and all economic sector, because the business have to come into this, because the business sector is also very important. And very important, whatever we develop, no one is left behind. I'm beginning to talk like Asia now. And this is the plan. It's a difficult one, but please bear with me. What I want to say is that we developed this plan based on 4 principles. It has to be humanity-centric, we discussed about that. Of course, we need to also move science, it has to be STI enabled, but more importantly, it also has to be nature-based, what we do, and basically it has to be values internalized, and we talk a lot about the shared values and so on. But how we move it is via, of course, when we were discussing it, we have the environment, the sustainable food, research, education, energy, governance, and another factor that we need to come in is that if you want a whole society approach, values, cultural shift, behavioral change, communication, very, very important. And how we do it together is that if we continue like this, we have the old mindset of thinking. So what we say, we need to bring them all together and then create the 5 shifts of thinking. This is the paradigm shift that we want to say. Because at the end of the day, they have commonalities. And what we're saying is that shift 1 in thinking, we need to strengthen the governance and management of the nation's natural khazanah, which is our biodiversity. Second, we need to nurture people to lead healthy, prosperous, and values-driven nation. Third, we need a planet-friendly business. 4, effective communication is muy importante, since it's a Mexican here, so we are talking Spanish as well. There is a need for behavioral and values mindset and sustainable financing. Anything you talk about has to have sustainable financing, and resourcing plans where development initiatives need to be there. And we do this by 52 strategies and 279 action plan. But it's very important, thank you, I know time's up. Very important is that there is a need for the leaders to change now. If we want to change the education system, it's going to take some time. We need to change the policymakers, the way they're thinking now. So that's why we need the transformational sustainability leadership module to be there. And very important, most of the things that we do, there is no impact tracking, no monitoring that is done. And we wait every 5 years, then only you know what's happening. No, what we are saying, we need to do this impact tracking now, so that we now know on the ground and real time what is now happening, what needs to change before the next RM. And we also need to have an environmental genomic database. So all this we are doing to transform Malaysia, to contribute to a healthy planet, because our tagline is healthy planet, healthy me. I know this is going to go against Professor Zadar just now, because and prosperous Malaysia. Why do we say healthy me? We went through this long discussion, Professor Zadar, whether it's healthy us or healthy me. Because this is a starter. For us, it has to be healthy me first. Then we will move to healthy us towards community. Because when we did the survey among 3,000 people and whatnot and firms, it's very important that they say, well, the next person is not doing it, why should I do it? So this kind of mindset change we need to take, or we need to happen, but we need to happen now. And this is the National Planetary Health Action Plan, essentially. And what we do today, what needs to happen is that we already have a National Sustainability SDG Center. It is talking only about SDG. Where is planetary health? Where is ESG? Everybody is having different entities. So we say, hello, let's put this all together and have a rebranding of the National SDG Council to National Sustainability Council, chaired by the Prime Minister, implementation chaired by the KSN. So that the 3 secretaries, so that now all the ministries are aligned to now work together towards this, and the National Sustainability Center will now have the impact tracking monitoring system, so that they know on the fly where things have gone wrong and can now implement them in a better way. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know I've taken my time, but basically we welcome collaborations, advice and sharing of best practices to help us in our call to action journey to transform Malaysia to contribute to a healthy planet. With that, thank you very much.
So last but not least, we'd like to welcome Professor Eric Major. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Managing Director of Borneo Futures and a world-renowned conservation biologist. With 32 years of experience in tropical wildlife conservation, Professor Major has dedicated his career to reconciling biodiversity conservation with equitable development. We'll be very interested to hear what you have to say about that. Please.
Thank you very much, Professor Jittern. Ladies and gentlemen, great to see such a big audience here today. I'd like to thank everyone for inviting me here to be able to speak on behalf of the topic that I've been working on for indeed much of the past 30 years. I run a scientific consultancy organization based in Brunei, but the subject I'm talking about today is with my other hat, and that's the head of chairing the IUCN Oil Crops Task Force. The IUCN is the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, the largest conservation organization, member-based conservation organization in the world. Asked in 2016, what is going on with these vegetable oils? And of course, very relevant here in the region, in Malaysia and Indonesia as well. Palm oil was big on the agenda. Palm oil in certainly the global north media is always being pointed out as the villain in this broader discussion on vegetable oils and sustainability. So, through a motion and then a resolution, the IUCN was tasked to provide greater understanding of what was going on with palm oil and specifically palm oil in relation to biodiversity. I was asked to chair that group, and I did that. We published a report in 2018 that was neatly titled Oil Palm and Biodiversity. During that research, we very quickly became aware that framework, oil palm and biodiversity, was pretty meaningless. You cannot look at oil palm or palm oil, for that matter, in isolation of other vegetable oil crops. So I pushed for a new resolution and new terms of reference that look much more broadly at what we recently published in 2024, all the vegetable oil crops, not just from a biodiversity perspective, but from a broader environmental and a broader societal, cultural, social, socioeconomic, as well as nutritional context. And suddenly from a very simple discussion on oil palm and biodiversity where, if you cut down the rainforest and you replace it with oil palm, the biodiversity goes down, you're ending up with a big, global, highly complex, and one of the speakers said that this morning, you're dealing with these complex systems with non-linear interaction where there are no simple solutions or patterns anymore. I would ask you to have a look at the report. I know we're all very busy, and I'm not going to ask any of you to read a 190-page report, but the infographics are excellent. So if you just spend time having a look at the pictures about this complexity that sets its vegetable oils. Vegetable oils are really important. They occupy about 37% of the global land allocated to agricultural crops. It's one of the fastest growing commodities in the world. And one of the things we do know from the World Health Organization is that a healthy diet requires that between 20 and 30% of your daily energy needs are met by fats and oils. They can be produced either by animals or through plants, and I can guarantee you that in terms of broader sustainability, you're much better off to produce vegetable oils through plants. Now, one of the issues that we have is that we have a growing human population, we have more people to feed, and it's a pretty certain prediction that the demand for vegetable oils is going to increase in the next few decades. That puts a lot of pressure on production systems. What are we going to do? There's basically two options. You're either going to increase production on the existing land already allocated to vegetable oil production, or you're going to increase the amount of land. Increasing the amount of land is always tricky, because very quickly you're starting to expand into areas that are currently forested or covered under natural ecosystems, driving further losses in biodiversity, driving further losses in ecosystem losses, and driving climate change. So as much as possible, one of our recommendations is, if you can, stay away from natural ecosystems. And that's not just about tropical forests. I mean, these crops expand into boreal forests. You see with climate change that crops can be grown at higher latitudes than before, expanding into boreal forests into Canada. We're talking about conversion of woodlands and woodland savanna type ecosystems, for example, in southern Brazil and northern Argentina. We're talking about conversion of natural grasslands. All of these are important for biodiversity, and the world seems to have been really myopic about this discussion. It's always been a very black and white discussion, where palm oil stood out as the evil crop, and on the other hand, you had sort of the rest, the stuff we didn't know much about, and that was probably good. I'm always baffled by the fact that coconut in Western supermarket is sold as a wonder product, like, it has everything. It's good for your health. It's great for local people. It's great for the environment. And then palm oil is being considered the opposite. But they're both tropical palms. I mean, they're both palms producing oils. What is the essential difference? And through the study, we've learned a lot, but there's so much that we don't know yet. Simple thing, I look at supermarkets, I can buy a pot of peanut butter that says contains no palm oil, okay? If that's what you want as a consumer, buy that. You pay twice the price, but that's up to you. Then you turn the pot around, and I'm trying to find out, well, where did the peanuts come from? Zero information. Absolutely no information. Now, peanut is a much larger crop than oil palm, but the world does not seem to need any information on peanut and deforestation, peanut and social issues, peanuts and human rights. We just don't even ask the questions. Another one, sesame. Does anyone know what the biggest sesame producer is in the world? Don't be embarrassed. I have no idea either. It's Sudan. Sudan, I don't know much about Sudan. I know there is a terrible civil war happening that we seem to ignore altogether. I know that from studies that the trade and production of sesame, at least partly, is in the hands of warlords. I assume there's major human rights issues associated with production of sesame. And ask any questions. So I think there's a big need from scientists to start filling some of these knowledge gaps, to ask some of these questions. And a lot of these are perception driven. People have strong perceptions about palm oil, so we feel the need as scientists to answer questions about palm oil. But to have a level playing field where we as scientists can inform policymakers and practitioners, we do need to fill some of these knowledge gaps. So that's what we set out with this report. Next week we're launching the Spanish translation of the report at the COP16, the United Nations Biodiversity Conference in Colombia. The Indonesian translation is finished. Sorry, Malaysia, you have to do with that. Because to me it's so important that the reports are being read in the countries where it really matters, in the African tropics, the Asian tropics, and the South American tropics and subtropics, because that's where the decisions need to be made. How are we going to increase production of these oils while minimizing negative impacts on the environment and maximizing the social benefit that these oils can bring? Basically answering the question
To the audience, please do introduce yourself and just a slight mention about where you're from, and then please move on to the questions. We'll have two questions initially first, and then one. There's one gentleman over there. We have the mic. Yes, in the other. Usher here. How about the second question? Let's prepare for that.
Good morning. I'm also retired. There's a comment that I would like to make. We've been talking about awareness. for whatever is sustainability, biodiversity conservation, and anything. It's always about awareness. But what I see is that down the road, we're still talking about awareness, so I won't be surprised in the next 30 years, we're still talking about awareness. Here, the missing link, to me, is about responsibility. We need to create responsible people. Awareness is something that everybody knows. And I have seen people throwing rubbish from their car. And you think that these people are aware? They are aware that it's wrong to throw rubbish from the car. But there is no responsibility in their action. That's why they throw rubbish from the car. So in order to inculcate responsibility, to me, you have to start in education, starting from very young, right up to university level. My question is, would that be the way forward for Malaysia? Thank you.
You'll get one more question and then we will start answering. So one more question from this.
Okay, thank you. Again, I am Shraddha Mishra and Firdaus from Indonesia Embassy in Kuala Lumpur. Thank you, Dr. Chan. I have two questions. First to Professor Asma. The three pillars of SDGs may be trapped off among them. So prosperous, but maybe with the high environmental degradation. But why? Mostly in the tropics, they are together bad. So not prosperous, high ratio, and bad quality of environment. And the second question to Professor Eric Major. What do you think about this statement that palm oil is the black gold for Malaysia and Indonesia? Because next week there will be the SPOC meeting in Kuala Lumpur from Eric. And then is certification like are SPO and SPO, ISPO enough or not? Thank you.
Sorry, if you don't mind, could you repeat your question? Maybe just one sentence, just so that we can hear. I think the echo is maybe a bit.
Yeah, to Eric, I have the question. Is certification like